Hi. Today we're going to work on exercise 1 in AutoCAD 2023. And this has to deal with 2D or 3D solids. So we're going to start off making a 2D sketch of the geometry that you see here. And basically we're going to model up the part, as you can see. Now there's a couple extrusions. You see this one right here, and then there's going to be one on the back. One's a 1/2 inch high, the other is 1 inch. And then there's a hole that we're going to take a look at how to put that in, as well as the fillets. That's the radiuses that you see here and here. And then the chamfers. The chamfers are the blue angles. So let's begin. Go to New and select the AutoCAD 3D template. And I'm going to go ahead and select the top plane here. And I'm going to hit this rotate button. So this is your object cube. It enables you to rotate the part. You also can do it with other methods, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But we're going to start off by looking at it from this front view, or actually this top view. Now you'll see there's a Visualize and a 3D tab. You may not have those. If you don't have those, right click over here on the gray area. And actually, let me see if I can do it over here. There we go, on any tab basically. And you'll see Show Tabs, and make sure you select 3D Tools and Visualize. Now once you have those, if we go to Visualize, we could go and we could set up different visual appearances. So right here we have Realistic currently. I'm going to start off with 2D Wireframe. And this is just a personal preference, just because it's easier to see. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to first draw the two-dimensional sketches. So go to the Home button, or Home tab I should say, and go ahead and find the Rectangle tool. Hover to the origin, and you'll notice my snaps are not on right now. So down below here we have the Snap On, Snap Off mode. So by selecting that, it's automatically going to snap to 1/2 inch increments. So with this, we could go ahead now at the origin, click and drag up to the upper right, and you can see dimension boxes appear. The very first one at the top there, it's currently at 1.5. Let's go ahead and set that to 3. So go ahead and on your keyboard, just type in 3. You don't have to put 0.00, and then hit the Tab key on your keyboard, and that will go to the alternate dimension. And for this one, we want 5, and hit Enter. After you hit that, you can go ahead and click on this top box here, and this will take us to the front, or I should say the top orientation. Now the wheel on your mouse will enable you to scroll in and out, and you can actually point and direct where you'd like to scroll in and out. So if I hover my crosshairs over the upper left corner and scroll towards it, I'll zoom up towards it, and vice versa. If you scroll backwards, you'll back up from it. But what we want to do next is we want to go ahead and put in a rectangle here at the bottom. So go to the Rectangle tool again, and we're going to go ahead and click on that corner there, drag it up and to the right, and it's already at 3, but you could, if you wanted, you could type in 3 and hit Tab, and that will lock it in, and then 1.5, and hit Enter. Now, if you're having some problems with that, initially what I noticed on this release is I turned off this just temporarily and it worked, and then for some reason now it's working just fine. But anyhow, just make note of that. This actually are the specific snaps for endpoint centers, geometric centers, nodes. It's probably just operator error in my case, but it was kind of unusual. All right, let's go to the Circle tool. If you hit the little arrow underneath Circle, you'll see there's center radius and center diameter. We're going to go with the center diameter. Now hover your pointer in the upper left quadrant. And here you want to get to where you specify that this is going to be located at 1 by 4. So 1 inch upward and 4 inches to the right. So once you get that, and you could type them in as well if you're not able to snap to it, click and drag out a circle, and go ahead and type in 0.75. That's the diameter. Now, if yours turns out twice that size, make sure maybe you could hit Control Z, which is undo, or hit the undo button up here, and make sure that you selected the center diameter tool. Now that we have our geometry, we could go ahead and let's go over here to the right and see this little home button. If you click on that, it will automatically go to an isometric orientation. And from here, we could use the 3D tools. Let's go to 3D tools. Now, if you start off with a different template, there are some settings down below here that will enable you to go and change your workspace. But I have a video for that. If you go ahead and type in E1 AutoCAD, it's from 2016, and I'll show you how to do that if that's what you're interested in. But in this case, we could just use the tools directly because we're already in that 3D template. So you'll notice there's press and pull and there's extrusions. For this particular one, we're going to try press pull. I'm going to go ahead and select press pull, and I'm going to go within this boundary. Now notice because I have the circle drawn, that will automatically create a void in that area as I extrude it upward or drag it upward. So I go ahead and click, and as I drag it up, we could go ahead and type in the explicit value, so 0.5. We could use the ruler too, but it's just easier sometimes to type in the value. Now let's go ahead and go over this area here for the base and click and drag that up and type in 1 and hit enter. Now what that did is it created two separate volumes. So there's two different parts right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to merge them. And the way they merge them, it's called a union. And this is what they call Boolean operation, where it merges them. You could also subtract if they're intersecting each other or make an intersection between them. And let's this is basic primitive modeling from the early days. Go ahead and go to Union and select this part here. Okay, oops. And hit enter. And it should connect. Now I had to click twice. I got some interesting little dialogue that appeared up there. I actually clicked and dragged across to select them. But you just need to select both of the entities. If you go to shaded mode, it automatically selects the surfaces. So if we want to do that, we could go back here. And oh, also what I noticed on my selection tool here from an earlier setting, I had it set to face. So no filter is the option here under the 3D tools. That would enable us to select the other entities. So that's why I was having some difficulty. Also, the culling, go ahead and you could disable that. Controls whether objects that are hidden from view are highlighted when you roll over them. It is a nice tool, but sometimes it could cause some confusion. But for right now, we're going to we could leave that off. Now let's go ahead and shade this. So you go to the Visualize tab. And there's multiple ways of doing this, but then you go to Visualize here, and there's 2D wireframe, and you could go with conceptual. There's realistic, and I do like realistic. Now notice here it says you can improve performance, 3D pan, orbit tool. Just hit the close on that. We'll talk about that later. But we could also go to shaded with edges, and I do like that one in particular, especially for this next part, because you can see the edges clearly as you're hovering over them to select them. Okay, we're going to go ahead and now to rotate this, hold your shift key down on your keyboard and then depress the wheel on your mouse. Actually push it down and hold it as though it's a button. Move your pointer left or right and rotate it until you get to this orientation where basically on the view cube you have right, back, and top. You could even click on this little segment right here in between, and that will go to an isometric view off of that. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to go back to 3D tools, and you'll see the Fillet Edge. If you hit the little arrow to the right of Fillet Edge, there's also a chamfer, and we're going to use that one as well. But let's first start off with the fillet. Now, the order of operations when it comes to fillets, usually it works best if you go with put in the largest fillets first and work your way down to the small ones. But I've seen that reverse every now and then. But I would say 90% of the time that's the key. This particular part's very easy, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, now down below here in the dialog box, go ahead and click on radius. And it's already on mine, it's defaulting to 1 inch, which is perfect. I'm just going to hit enter. And I'm going to go ahead and proceed to select the edge right here. Notice how the edge turns blue. And then we get a nice preview. And the preview looks as though it's new for this release, which I really like. It does bring back the old faceted preview for a moment after you select both those edges that I just did. Those are the only two I want you to select. Don't select any others just right now. And hit enter, and there's the facets. Hit enter again, and they disappear. So there we have the model. Let's go ahead and add a chamfer. Hit the little arrow underneath Fillet Edge and go to chamfer. And over here, go to distance. And we're going to put the chamfers on this 90-degree angle here. So if we make them equal, so 0.125, enter, and 0.125, that's the distances off of the edge, it should come out to 45 degrees for the angle. Hit enter again. And now there is a loop, but the loop will loop all the way around. We don't really want that. We just want a couple edges here. So this one here, and this one here. Now, I know in other CAD systems like Inventor, you could select these as well. It does. AutoCAD seems to have a limitation with that as far as I could ascertain, but it might be operator error. And if someone knows a better way, go ahead and just post it in the comments below. Hit enter and enter again. All right. Now, I think I accidentally hit another key there, but that's okay. It still went through. Now, to replay that chamfer tool without having to click on the icon again, just hit the enter key and it should bring it back. Now go ahead and click on distance and look at that. It remembers our 0.125 for that. Hit enter again and 0.125 again. So we don't have to type in those values if we're going to reuse them. So select this edge now and this one along here and that one. Hit enter and enter. Okay, so now we could see we have the chamfers in. We're almost done. We're going to go ahead and put the shell element. We're going to make it a thin-walled part. So if you hold the shift key and rotate this around, remember what mouse button do I hold for rotation? So we hold the shift key on the keyboard and the wheel on the mouse. All right, and then you could, if you want to get perfect isometric, you could click on that little cube in there. And let's now go to shell. Now the shell says select the solid. Go ahead and click on the solid and hit enter. And now let's go ahead and select the faces we want to. You know what? I think I hit enter too quickly there. Let me hit escape there. Hit enter again. Okay, enter a solid editing. All right, let's see here. Face. Oops, let me hit escape. Let's just hit escape there. I messed that up. Let's go to shell, select the 3D solid, and now you select the faces to remove. So click there, click on this face, and you're probably saying, wait, why are you selecting all the faces? Don't worry, we're just selecting these out underside faces. Once those are all selected, now you could hit enter. Those are the faces that are going to be removed. And look at to the right of my pointer, I get a dialog box, and how thick do I want to make the wall? So let's make a 0.062, enter. And now go ahead and hit exit here and hit exit again. All right, and there is our shelled part. Now I'm gonna show you how to add some colors to this. Now for adjusting colors and such, first of all, go to the visualize. And right here under material, go to material browser. Now my material browser is rather large. I'm on a 4K monitor and I'm only recording at 1080. So the scale's kind of weird here. So just be aware yours might look much smaller. Now you can adjust these if you go to change your view. I have mine set to 32 by 32 for the thumbnail size so I could see them. Otherwise they're really small. Like by default I think it's 16, which for some screens it looks fine. On this large screen that I'm using, it's a little too small for me. And then you could move these around just like an Excel spreadsheet. And so you could see the type is plastic and the sort by, so you could sort by metals, woods, plastics. As you hit this, you'll see there's glass, went back to plastics, it is alphabetic, and you'll see wood, all sorts of materials and metals. Let's go ahead And you could select anything you like. The metals are really neat, but with the background that we have, it's a little bit too dark. So like right here we have smooth, light beige, smooth light gray. Let's find, ivory looks pretty good. Okay, so we're about ready to use that. But what you want to do here, let me just move this out of the way a little bit so you can see this. And if you remember under 3D tools, you have the ability to go with filter and no filter. Make sure no filter is on. That selects the whole part. Now we could go ahead and I think I wanted ivory. Yeah, let's go ahead and click on ivory, hit the little adds material. And it's pretty close to what it was prior to this. So unfortunately you can't, I should have probably picked a different color, but that's okay. Next one we'll see. Now let's change the color of the holes in the chamfer. So over here for no filter, set it to face. And just select, what's really nice here is you don't have to hold control. You can just select the faces you want to add the colors to. And they highlight temporarily. And now you could select the different color. So for example, if I want this blue plastic, I just hit enter. And now it looks as though nothing happened. But remember and visualize. Under visualize, I'd pick shaded with edges, which doesn't capture the colors that you had. So if you go to realistic, now we can actually see what the colors look like. All right, another thing that you might want to do here to make it look better is turn on perspective. So just click in the dialog here and type in perspective, and you'll see the option right there. And the value, we're going to set it to 1. 0 is off. 1 is on. Oops. There we go. All right, and so what that did is it creates a vanishing point. So like when you take a picture from the back of a room, everything gets smaller the further away it is from the camera lens. That's what you're adding here. That gives it the appearance of realism. Okay, you could also, there's some additional items in here. You have render, so you could go over here, render to size, and you could select a specific size, like for 1080, 1920, full HD, and there's render to cloud, which if you're a student, I believe they give you some cloud time, which basically you get to use their supercomputers at Autodesk, or you could use your processor. My computer's pretty decent, so I don't really need to use that, but I'm going to go ahead and go underneath here to render. Now I'm going to use render window. And it might take a minute here. And if I I'm going to do a Control-Alt-Delete to see if it's actually working here. Okay, apparently it's not. So let's see what's going on there. Did I miss something here? So low. Let's make sure. Render in window. Low. Let's try render cloud. Oh, we got to save it. Okay. Okay, it's being rendered online. And because I have this truncated view, unfortunately I can't see all the icons here. I'm just trying to see if there's, because I know there's a way to render it not on the cloud, so I'm not sure where that is. Normally it is in here, but I'm not seeing it for some strange reason. And then render to window isn't working. Okay, not sure why that's doing that. Anyhow, this is still a pretty decent view. Those of you in my class you can now go to, if you go to the AutoCAD up here, or ACAD, go to Export, and you'll find Create PDF. Now when you select the PDF option here, you could give it a name. So in this case, this is exercise 1. Or E1. And then the display, we could go to Extents, or you could go to Window. I'm going to go to Extents, and let's hit Save. And that should have created my PDF. And so that's pretty much it. You take that PDF, those of you in my class, go ahead and just submit that in D2L and the assignments. And there's one for the exercise and there's ones for the labs. So as you do those labs, which I'm going to show you next, you can tinker with that. But I really encourage you, play with these colors, and it's a lot of fun. It's pretty cool what it does. Okay. Looks good. All right, so next, what I'm going to go ahead and do here is we're going to look at the manual. So the training guide, if you go to Vertanu 1, so I'm going to go ahead and bring over Chrome here, vertanu1.com, and you'll notice it says not secure. There's no transactions going on here, so I don't bother to secure it with financials. Anyhow, as we take a closer look here, you'll find the instructional manuals, and there's the Autodesk AutoCAD 3D. That's the class we're in, and the training guide is a PDF, and it's unfinished. It's a work in progress currently. I keep thinking I'm going to get it started on it. I haven't done much with it. Done a few things, but it's a good resource for the actual, you can see this is from 2021, for the dimensions that we use for these parts for right now. It actually is based off of my inventor manual, so there are some similarities, but they're both different products. But what you can find on here are the labs. So on page 21 here's lab 1, and it looks like the letter F. It's 2 inches by 3.5. Let's go ahead and give that one a shot. So I'm going to drag that over here, and let's go to New, AutoCAD 3D, and we could go ahead and select, we're going to use the line tool this time. Oh, let's go to Top, flip that around. Again, this is just my personal preferences here. And I'm going to turn on the grid. Zoom out, and we can now go to Home, and we'll use the line tool. Now Polyline is might even be better in this case, but let's just use the line tool for right now. Click, drag this up, and that should be 2. Enter. And now across to the right, this is going to be 1. Then down, it's going to be 1. Now here's the thing, if you hit enter, it's going to end the line. So let's see, we could hit tab. Oh, darn it. Let's just do that one more time. 1, enter. And then this next one is 0.75. Enter. This goes straight up. Now this is where you got to turn off or disable the snap just for a minute. And we want to make sure that it's 90 degrees. 1. Go across here, and then this one is 0.75. And then down, and then we go about, actually, rather than putting the dimensions and doing the reverse math, I'm going to go down a little bit, like right about there, click, and I'm just going to eyeball this across. Click, And now I'm going to infer, and actually I could turn, let's see, I'll infer to that. I'm trying to get it to capture that snap there. That's okay. If we can't get it, we'll connect it and then hit escape. Now, what we could look at are parametrics. Now, parametrics have been in AutoCAD for some years now. They weren't in there when I first started using it in 1986, but they gradually made their way in there over the past decade or so. So what we're going to do is parametrics enables us to lock things in. Like, for example, if we're not sure about that line right there, maybe we want that to be horizontal or vertical. Like right here, there's horizontal. And so you could go ahead and select it, and you see the little horizontal symbol. Now, we could do auto constrain and just have it capture everything just like that and hit enter. And now look at that. We have all these constraints and connection points, coincident, horizontal, vertical, parallel. Now, using the dimensions as well, this is really nice because it captures the dimensions and allows you to change them, and it updates everything. The old methods of changing lengths is just there's extend and things like that where you edit the sketch. But in this case, I'm going to go to linear. I'm going to click right there, drag the dimension down, click to drop it, and this is supposed to be 3.5. And you see everything actually adjusts. Let's go ahead and add the next one. Hit enter again. It should remember. Actually, let's make sure. Yeah, linear is fine. Okay, so click there and there. Drag it to the left, I'm sorry. Click. And 2 is what we want, so we can just hit enter. And hit enter again. We're still in linear. So we can click here to here, drag that up. That's 1, hit enter. Now in the drawing, I do a baseline dimensioning. So let's follow that. So 1.75 and 2.5. Enter to get back. Oh, you know what? By moving that, there we go. Okay, so from this point to this point, 1.75, enter. And then enter again from this point to this point, 2.5. So those were already set up because I was doing the math in my head, subtracting when I was adding those, I should say putting those dimensions in. I'm going to hit escape now, and you'll see the dimensions. You could go ahead and move them and relocate them. In this case, they're pushing outward because they're in the way otherwise. And you see the little locks on there. Now let's get, actually we still have a couple more here. Let's go ahead and add this one from here to here. And this actually needs to be 0.85. And then this dimension here, hit enter, from here to here. And that should be 1, and there it is. Now you have the ability to show and hide all, so if you don't want to see them, you can turn them off, but they're still there. All right, there's also delete constraint. There's angles, there's diameters. Okay, and also the parametrics, you could show or hide all. So if you want to hide all those, there. There is a way too to change the dimension style so it doesn't have like the annotation constraint mode. I believe. One of those gets rid of the D4. Anyway, I know that's in there. I'll search for it later. But let's go now and we're going to extrude this. Now, there's a limitation once you do go to extrude this. So let's go home. Actually, let's go to 3D Tools. And you could go to press pull. But let's go to the home button over here. Click and drag that up. Now, this is supposed to be 0.5 thick. Now let's see if we have a problem with it. Might be, let's see if it's a solid. If we go to view or visualize, and it looks good. Sometimes it will create a hollowed out area, and that's if the geometry isn't completely enclosed. But because we had the constraints, I think that helped it. Now, here's one of the issues. If you made this out of a solid, you would hope that if you change this dimension and widen it, which you can do, it would update the solid. But take a look here. I could type in 4, hit enter. It extended this out, but it didn't extend the solid. Now, if you were to make this a surface, surfaces actually are parametric. They will update with it. If we extrude that instead of as a solid, there's an option as a surface. And we go into surfaces more in exercise 11. So we've got a ways to go before we start really looking at those. But the other method here is you have the push-pull, which you could use. So under 3D tools, if we want to extend that, you just click on press pull, click on that surface, and extend it out. And in this case, it was an additional 0.5. And so it is pretty easy to fix, but it's just beware it's not fully parametric. I mean, you do have parametrics in there for the sketch, but the models don't necessarily update. Now, I encourage you all to tinker around with this geometry. And so let's have a little fun. Go ahead and put on the Fillet Edge and go to radius. 1 inch is a little too big for this one, so let's go with 0.5 and select some edges. Oh, interesting. We're actually seeing the facets, which makes me think it might be a collection of surfaces here. But no, if it were surfaces, it would have actually updated. So never mind that. All right, so I'm going to hit enter and enter. And look at that. You're able to have a little fun there. And let's say we wanted to shell it. So we could go now to shell, select the solid, and then select the faces for it to open. Hit enter, and then select the wall. Now remember, don't try and make the wall too thick. It can't be thicker than the actual part. So you want to set like something like 0.1 or 0.06 and enter, enter. And now we have a thin-walled part. Very quickly, you can have a little fun with it. And also, don't forget, you could go to Visualize and tinker with the material color. So the material browser, we could bring that up. Let's go to 3D Tools, no filter, so we'll change the whole part's color. Let's try green plastic, why not? Oh, and because you're not seeing the color, you have to go to Visualize and make sure, set it to realistic. I believe shaded will do it. Nope. So you really, looks as though, thought that some of these did actually bring in the colors. There is X-ray. Oh, there, you can see the green with X-ray. Realistic, of course. And then you could select individual surfaces by going to 3D Tools, select face. Let's just select the top face and say we want that to be this color. And there we go. All right, now when you're going to export this out for me, for those of you in my class, give me the best view. Oh, by the way, Control and the middle mouse button, or actually just the middle mouse wheel, if you hold it, will pan. You don't have to hold Control. Okay, give me the most descriptive view of your model, and then again we just go up here to Export and PDF. Now the other option you can do when you select this, and this will be L1 for Lab 1, and under Export we could select Window, and let me show you what that does. For that, you just click and drag a fence to surround the geometry you want in the window, and then go ahead and hit Save. And let's do one on the desktop here so we could see it. Okay, and here is the rendering. I should say the PDF. All right, the next thing we need to do here is bring our training guide over here. So then there's Lab 1B, which is this part here, and it's 3x5 and 1.5 inch cutout, and then it's 1.5 inches thick and the cutout actually is 1 inch deep. So let's go to new. And now what I recommend, those of you in my class, try doing these on your own. Pause my video, try modeling it just from the drawing. And then if you get stuck, watch the video. Or when you finish, watch the video and you'll see different tricks that I might not have shown in the exercise. Okay, so AutoCAD 3D template. And I'm going to get rid of the colors here. And I'm going to go ahead and sketch in this mode. This isn't so bad. I mean, it's actually very nice. It's just, I like wireframe. Okay, and then over here, oops, get rid of that. Turn on snap mode. Click there. And again, 3. Actually, this one is kind of reversed. It's 5 inches wide by 3. And click on top to center it. Now this is, again, because I have a 4K screen, I think it made the line font very thin. So again, that's one of my preferences under Visualize. And you can change the line font too. I just don't want to go into that just yet. But the wireframe is a little easier to see. But if you're looking for the options, you can click on AutoCAD and Options. And here you can change a lot of those settings. We're not going to go into all the details here. I just wanted to show you where some of the 3D settings are, and also snap markers. Here's 3D modeling and section profiles and such. So we'll just cancel that for right now. Okay, so we have the geometry here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to draw in, let's see, go back home. Let's draw the circle here. All right, and for this particular drawing, oops, did I close my training guide? Oh no, there it is. We see the dimensions, there are holes, 4 of them, and they're positioned 3/4 of an inch off of each corner, and they're 1/2 inch through. So again, we go to center diameter, and we could use Parametrics for this. Actually, that might be easier. Let's do 1 here and make it 0.75. And that looks way too large. Let's Control Z that. That was supposed to be 0.5, my mistake. Center diameter. Let's get it right about there. 0.5. Oops. All right, now to position that, let's go to the Parametrics. And let's auto-constrain. So click and drag a fence to surround everything, hit enter. That locks it all down. One area too is the corner. It's a good idea to lock it. So see the lock there and click on the corner. That way nothing moves. All right, and now we're going to go to the dimensions. Here to here. It's 3 inches, hit enter, and then hit enter again from here to here. It's going to be 5, enter, and then the diameter, and let's turn off the snap. It's a grid. 0.5, and now we use dimensions to locate it. Watch this, we go to linear, select the center point, or actually just select the outer edge, and then to this point here. And we could pick this one or the other one. So right here, click on that. That's going to be 0.75. And you'll see it relocate. Hit enter again. It should select the circle, select that same point, and move it over here. Click, and 0.75. Now it's perfectly positioned. What we're going to do is we're going to mirror that across now. So here's a little technique. Go back home. I'm going to draw a line, and we can find the midpoint. Actually, let's make sure midpoints are turned on right here. There's a midpoint, click, drag it across, click, hit escape, and enter again, and there's a midpoint for this direction. Click. All right, now we want to get that mirrored across. So let's go to the mirror tool. Oh, you know, we didn't even need those, actually. I keep forgetting that it would have allowed us to just do it. All right, so we have select mirror object, so we're going to select this. Enter. Now, first point. So right there to there, and erase source object. No, we want the original. Okay. Now, let's go mirror these across the other way. Hit enter. Select the objects to mirror, this circle, hit enter. And select this point here to this point here, which we didn't even need those. Hit no here. Okay, so actually, let's just get rid of those. Click on those lines. We don't need them. They're extra. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look. We have this cutout right here, and it's 1.5 inches across. So 0.75 from center. So actually, we could control Z to bring back that vertical line, and we could use that. I could click on it and use the regular techniques for offset, and specify the offset distance from here. And let's go ahead and type in 0.75. Click, enter, do that again, enter, and that way. Oh, do that again, enter, click, and then there, oops, let's do that again. Select what we want. Click. Ah, darn it. Let's try that one more time. Sorry, folks. Okay. Click. 0.75. Click. Ah. All right. I should have hit exit there. But let's do that one more time. Select the object, specify the offset distance, 0.75. There we go. All right. So let's get rid of this line here. We no longer need it. Oops. And now we could rotate this, and let's do the press pull. So we could select this. Now if there's multiple, select multiple right down here, and select this, and that. Now hit enter, and drag it all down. And we want this to go a depth of 1.5. And now let's go to press pull again and just capture that center. And oh, isn't that interesting? Because of the dimensions, it's interfering. Let's hit escape there. Let's turn off those. Go to parametrics, and good reason to hide all. Oh. Well, let's at least get them out of there. Let's see. Just click on the dimension. There's a little box that appears. You can drag them out. Oh, there's actually a little box that it created in there. That's odd. Let's delete this whole thing. And let's go to shaded for a second. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so we're almost there. All right, so let's get these off here so we don't have that same strange phenomena. Again, probably operator error. Okay, go back to 3D Tools, press pull. Now that will be 1.5. And now I could go back to press pull. That same little boundary area, drag it down. This will be 1. And it will cut away that material. All right, now we just have to merge those. So that's a union. Select this, this, and this. Enter. And there it is. All right, feel free to have a little fun with it. Again, you could put some fillets in. Now let's put in 0.75 in this case. There we go. And then let's put some chamfers on those edges. So distance 0.125, enter 0.125. You could do like 0.25 if you want a different angle. Let's actually, let's put that on the actual edges of the holes and look at that. You could get a countersink. Oh, interesting. That's that limitation I was talking about earlier, where it doesn't like separated boundaries. But that's okay. You get the idea. All right, and let's now go to shell. And we could go ahead, select the body. Let's shell out this area. Now, this would not be practical for manufacturing necessarily, unless we get the bottom too. Rotate that. Get the bottom. Hit enter and enter. Oh, required 0.06. Enter, enter. All right, look at that. So again, we made a neat little part. Let's go ahead and go to AutoCAD, export PDF, and this will be L1B. And the page setup, actually display, let's do extents, save. And that's it. And that concludes exercise 1 of AutoCAD 2023. Thank you.